We are looking into the Sorek Valley, and I'm standing on the ancient site of Beth Shemesh. And I want to do a geographical overview of where we are and then talk about some historical specifics and why this area is important. When you start in talking about the four major north-south zones in the land of Israel, you start out here in the coastal plain. You can't really see it too well, but you can see it's kind of flattening out the further we look westward here. The coastal plain it's bigger in the south, and it kind of narrows as you move north toward Mount Carmel. Then, as you move east, the next major zone you have is the Central Mountain Spine. These Cenomanian hills that are uplifted, which is where Israel started coming into the land. You can get a very good picture of them here. Then you move east into the Jordan Rift Valley, about a 8 to 10 mile wide valley on a fault line. It's got the Dead Sea in it with the Jordan River running up to the Sea of Galilee. Then you come up to the Transjordanian Plateau, and we can't see either of those last two here. But you can see that we're standing somewhere in between the coastal plain and the central hills. By the way, I just want to say too, you can see that to get up into the hills, you're going to have to go up. And this accounts for the verb that the people in the Bible use to talk about going to Jerusalem. They don't say they went to Jerusalem. Usually they'll say they went up to Jerusalem, or they came down from Jerusalem. Going up to Jerusalem is not a directional term. They're not going north or something. They're going up in elevation. So the authors are drawing on their geography that they're used to, and they're assuming that you understand it. So that helps explain that. But we're standing between these central hills, where Hebron is this way, and Jerusalem is this way, and Bethlehem, and all of this, and the coastal plain, where a very common enemy of Israel in the early monarchy, the Philistines, lived. Now, you've probably read stories about the Philistines, maybe from your childhood even, but I want to help take those stories and put them on a map for you so that you can see how they worked in real time. If the Israelites are up here, the Philistines are down here, we're standing in between those two places, or those two peoples, in a geographical region known as the Shephelah. Now, the Shephelah, what it basically means, how it'll often be translated in your Bibles, is foothills. And it's just a series of rolling hills up in a central mountain spine. The hills are more V-shaped, usually, and here they're just more rolling hills. You can see the Sorek Valley here, how it just it's rolling, and it's a little bit wider than what you're going to see in the central hills. And what happens is, over time, the rain washes off the soil on these hills, and it washes them down into this valley. So you get a nice mix of alluvial soil. And here you can grow grains. Up in the central hills, you can really only grow, summer fruits and things like that. Maybe some grains in a few areas. But these are really useful agricultural areas. And so what you have is a buffer zone, basically, between the Israelites and the Philistines that was agriculturally rich. And oftentimes what you'll have is, in the Shephelah running north-south, you've got a series of east-west valleys. I want to show you here on my handy map. You've got a series of east-west valleys. The Ayalon Valley in the north. You've got the Sorek Valley here we're looking in. The Elah Valley to the south, that way. That's where David and Goliath fought. Then the Guvrin, and etc. These are really more minor valleys. These are bigger and wider ones. And what you'll have in these valleys oftentimes is an Israelite site in the east and a Philistine site in the west. And they function kind of as doors, swinging doors, that's the word I'm looking for, swinging doors on either side. So the Philistines want to come in and kick the door in and come up into the central hills. The Israelites want to come in and kick the Philistines' door in and move out to the coastal plain out here. So this is a really strategic site, not only for the soil, but also because if you can command this, you can control this. But if you give up this area to your enemy, then they have a better way to move into the central hills where Israel is living. So we read about a man named Samson in the narratives of the Judges, and Samson was brought up right here by the Sorek Valley. These were his stomping grounds, and his town was somewhere over there, small town. And the swinging doors in this valley are Beth Shemesh, here where I'm standing, mostly an Israelite site, if I remember right. And then on the other side, you've got Timnah and you've got Ekron out here, both Philistine controlled sites. Okay? So begin to picture these areas as these corridors with swinging doors on either end. And it's important to both sides on either side to control them. And because of the rich soil in these valleys, it's not uncommon, or it's not strange to read about a story where Samson takes foxes' tails and ties them together, sticks torches in and sets them free in Philistine grain fields. It makes perfect sense, and it's geographically fitting here in the Shephelah. So a good overview of what the Shephelah is, how it functions, and begin as you read the Bible and you notice narratives between the Israelites and Philistines to read this into it and to put those stories on a map and remember how they functioned in real life and real time.